Live from Houston, Texas, the humidity capital of the world, it's time for Money for Lunch, where we feed your brain and your business with supersized portions of business and financial news. Now your host, Bert Martinez.
Hey guys, welcome back to Money for Lunch. It is Wednesday, and today is going to be another great show. As always, we've strived to bring you the best in just good information. We'd like to interview people literally from all over the United States, and we always appreciate you guys tuning in. We know that in today's world, there is tons of different media choices and places that you get your information, and so we always appreciate you guys tuning in. All right, let's get the ball rolling. My first guest, Hubie Dodd. Hubie Dodd is an administrative law expert as well as an attorney. Hubie Dodd, an attorney in Birmingham, Alabama, represents a variety of corporate and individual clients on white-collar, civil, and criminal matters, as well as in administrative proceedings involving professional licensing, which we'll be discussing with him today. Mr. Dodd has been named as a rising star and one of his region's best attorneys by Birmingham Magazine, as well as Super Lawyers Magazine. He has achieved the highest peer review rating available from Martindale Hubbell, and he can be reached on the web via hdoddlaw.com. He has represented international pharmacies and medical companies, as well as individuals who hold professional licenses, and is here to talk about some of the important issues facing those corporations and individuals who rely on their license to do business and earn a living. Hubie Dodd, welcome to Money for Lunch.
Bert, thank you for having me.
You bet. I wanted to ask you this because, I think that most of us are not familiar with this administrative proceedings or this administrative law, so I think it's going to be very interesting to most of us. So I want to start off by asking you this. When we are talking about a professional licensing issues, what types of clients deal with this?
Well, there are certain professionals, doctors, nurses, lawyers come to mind, pharmacists, who have to be licensed, typically by the states in which they practice, to pursue their professions. There are others, accountants in some states, all the way down to some hairdressers and beauticians have to be licensed by state boards. And when those individuals, or in some cases the companies, whether it be a pharmacy or a hospital where they work, when those companies have their licenses or those individuals have their licenses called into question for potential discipline, they typically go in front of disciplinary boards that are a part of that state regulatory agency, and those disciplinary boards are conducted under an administrative law setting.
Gotcha. All right, well, let me ask you this. When you're dealing with a professional licensing issue like this, are they handled by the same courts that handle other criminal or civil matters? No.
Typically speaking, whether you're dealing with a state regulatory agency or a federal regulatory agency such as the FDA, oftentimes proceedings are handled in administrative courts. Now, administrative courts are composed of oftentimes a judge/jury that are composed of professional peers. For instance, if you're in front of a pharmacy board, typically the pharmacy board will hear a case. There might be an administrative law judge that's presiding over the dispute, but the jury, so to speak, is made up of a board of professionals from that field. And the laws that are used typically are used under the administrative law doctrine with administrative law procedures and their own set of both substantive and procedural rules by which they are conducted. And so whereas criminal trials and civil trials have their own sets of rules, administrative law courts are very specific in the rules that they use, and it's very sort of important to understand that going in, that you're not dealing with something that you're used to seeing on TV.
Gotcha. You know what, and that makes me think that if that this administrative proceedings or this licensing proceeding can really be quite complicated, because what you just told me is, unlike, let's say, criminal law or civil law, that a practicing attorney may know those rules. When it comes to this administrative law issues, you're talking about having to know the rules of various different organizations, that may change quite regularly. This, to me, seems like a huge challenge, right? I mean, this is something that, unlike the law that maybe doesn't change as often, and you're dealing with something that's been on the books, so to speak, or a law that's been around for 50 years or 100 years. This administrative law stuff is really completely different then.
Bert, you're absolutely right, and that's why I tell folks that are facing these issues, whether they be individuals or corporations, that the first thing you need to do is make sure you find representation, an attorney or a firm that is very experienced in the specific area of administrative law that you're having a need with. Simple, competence or even exceeding competence in the areas of criminal law or civil law, it just doesn't necessarily translate to the ability to competently handle an administrative procedure. There are so many differences both in this procedural law and also in the way that those sorts of cases are handled and often decided, that it's very, very important from the get-go to have specific experience in that area.
Gotcha. Hey, Hubie, hold on one second. We got to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to be back talking with attorney Hubie Dodd about your licensing issues that may come up during the lifetime of your career right after this quick commercial break.
Did you bring the camera phone?
I did.
Do you want to go first?
I've been waiting for this all day.
Okay, this is Rose and Stacy.
Introducing Chase Quick Deposit. Just photograph the front and back of your check using the Chase mobile app on your iPhone and hit send.
It went through?
So cool.
This is so cool. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, it was nice.
Make a deposit from anywhere, anytime with your iPhone.
To Mr. and Mrs. Walker, why would they send my parents a check?
Chase what matters.
Tune in Monday through Friday here on Money for Lunch, and check out our website at moneyforlunch.com.
Hey guys, we're back. We're talking with administrative law expert and attorney Hubie Dodd. And Mr. Dodd handles a kind of a niche area of the law dealing with your license. So if you need a license as a massage therapist or a cosmetologist, or as an attorney or an accountant or a CPA, when your license comes into question, his firm handles these kind of questions. All right, so let me ask you this. You mentioned, we just talked about how this administrative law or licensing type issue is so different. So what type of lawyers should our listeners look for when they are faced with issues involving their professional licenses?
Well, the first thing you want to do is find someone who's experienced going in front of that particular board. The composition of these boards is very important. Oftentimes, it's a rotating board where people come on and off regularly, and it's important to know who is going to be sitting in judgment on your particular case. So having someone that's familiar with the venue, with the rules, and also the folks that are going to ultimately be deciding the matter that's in front of them, it's really important. And so typically what people do when they run into difficulty is they go to the first lawyer they know, the first lawyer
Right.
that they think of. And while oftentimes that attorney might be very good and very skilled at handling situations, in their area of expertise, I think it's important, especially when you're dealing with professional licensing issues, that you find someone that has experience in that specific area. And again, state by state, it's going to vary, but whatever state you're in, you're going to want to find someone there that has a track record of success in dealing with these administrative agencies. And on a federal level, obviously, that's even more important, because there is, as you can appreciate as an entrepreneur, there is an increasing and will be an increasing level and complexity to federal regulations, which again, go over all of these state boards and apply to all professionals, whatever state they might be in. And those issues are increasingly coming into play. So it's not just a knowledge of that your particular state's administrative procedures, but also any federal administrative regulations that may apply in any given situation.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you this. Okay, in this process, is there an appeals like you have in regular court, or is the board's ruling final?
Well, typically, the board ruling is final in a few aspects. Because they are professionals and should be the peers, so to speak, of the person that's whose case is in front of them, their conclusions of fact and conclusions of professional opinion are given great weight. Now, whereas in most jurisdictions you are allowed to appeal their rulings to a typical circuit court, a civil circuit court or superior court, while you're allowed to do that, oftentimes the findings of fact and conclusions as to the professional judgments involved in a particular case, those are left undisturbed unless there's some sort of gross misconduct or gross miscarriage of justice. Typically speaking, civil judges want to let those boards handle themselves. They are self-governing, and they are loath to disturb an opinion, professional opinion, once it's been rendered by the appropriate and responsible board.
Gotcha. You know what, and
it's
that
very
kind of
important
makes
then,
sense.
Obviously, then making a great and pristine record, and really, having a clear record at the administrative law level is so important. If you do plan to ultimately appeal a ruling up to a higher court, it's very important that you score your victories and score the specific victories you need to score at the administrative law level. Right.
Yeah, and I was going to say that kind of makes sense because obviously, like you said, this is your peers. And so if anybody's going to give you any kind of wiggle room, it's going to be your peers. They're going to say, yeah, I understand that, or, they're going to have a little empathy. However, conversely, if your peers aren't willing to give you a break, then you're kind of SOL.
To a certain extent, you're correct. But there also comes situations, especially in sort of, cutting-edge areas of these various professions, in which older, established board members might not have the requisite understanding of a particular situation, or there might be some sort of professional jealousy or resentment on their parts that plays a factor into their determinations. One good example is the area of pharmacy. Pharmacy is regulated by 50 different states. It's also regulated by federal authorities, and there isn't the sort of consensus that you would expect in such an important area of the law and of healthcare. There is no absolute consensus on especially the sort of cutting edges of pharmacy as to what is and is not a proper procedure or a proper way to go about practicing pharmacy. And so those ambiguities, those gray areas, so to speak, can oftentimes become, perilous pitfalls for a company that's looking to gain ground in a particular market or looking to try to put out some sort of innovative process into the marketplace. They have to be proactive, in my experience, very proactive in making sure that the folks on the administrative side understand what they're trying to do and appreciate the value that they're bringing to the marketplace.
Gotcha. You know what, and I like that. Just like in most cases, you have to be proactive. Obviously, if your license is on the line, that means your livelihood is on the line. You have to be aggressively proactive, and you can't wait around and fiddle faddle because again, you are, if your license goes, you may not make any money until it comes back. Hey, I wanted to ask you this real quick. I understand from my producers that you were victorious this past weekend at a thing called the Gumbo Gala. What the heck is the Gumbo Gala?
Well, it is in Birmingham, Alabama, so I can't claim any special prize as far as winning a gumbo contest in the middle of Louisiana, but I did live in Louisiana for a time, and I am a multiple-time champion of the Alabama Birmingham Gumbo Gala. Oftentimes voted the by the area readers as the best outdoor festival in Birmingham. It's a gumbo cooking competition, Bert, and it takes us 3 or 4 days. I actually cook on behalf of one of my corporate clients, the Garage Cafe, and we have either won first place overall or first place in our division every year we've entered.
I love it. I love it. You know what? I love that because, for several reasons. A, it sounds like a fun activity, and then B, you're doing it in conjunction with one of your clients, which is, and then both you and your clients are serving the community. That, to me, is a great example of, just doing something that you enjoy, but yet serving the community that you live in. So, congratulations to that, and I appreciate you stopping by and sharing great information.
Thank you, and I would be remiss if I didn't also say that benefits the Episcopal Place, which is an assisted living center for adults and differently abled individuals that does great work in Birmingham and the surrounding area.
Hubie Dodd, thank you so much.
Bert, thank you.
Guys, we're off and running. Great stuff there by attorney Hubie Dodd about you and your licensing and what to do about it in case your license or your behavior is being called into question.